So in ethers, we will mainly look up about SN1 and SN2 type of reactions. When it comes to ethers, the first thing we need to know that we can have symmetrical type of ethers or unsymmetrical type of ethers. Symmetrical, in a case, we can have same alkyl groups on the side like this, PH, OPH. These are symmetrical. Unsymmetrical, as in we can have two different alkyls, or you may have even aryl and alkyl groups. These are unsymmetrical type of ethers. Commonly, they have been named as ethers only. IUPAC name would be different. So let me just put it. What are the IUPAC names for very commonly appearing ethers? CH3O CH3. This is dimethyl ether, which is the common name. And when it comes to IUPAC, we would use this as methoxy. So we will use this prefix of methoxy, oxy, with the chain length, which is methane. So this is the IUPAC name. Same thing, if you see CH3O CH3, this will be the longest chain here. So this entire group would become substitute. That would become methoxy ethane as the IUPAC name, and ethoxy methyl, sorry, ethyl methyl ether as the common name. Keep writing along with me. The next group, you can see it is 1, 2, 3, longest chain. But this entire group, which is propane with one group here, this is called as isopropyl group, right? So it is isopropyl, and the other side we have methyl. So I can write this as isopropyl methyl ether as the common name. And if you write the IUPAC, it is actually propane. With second position, we have, you can see on the first carbon we have methoxy, second carbon we have methyl group. So you can write that as 2-methyl methoxy propane, isobutyl. Okay, if you have multiple ethoxy groups here, I mean multiple uh, ether groups here, so we'll simply write the numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it is an octane, but on the second position, fourth position and sixth position, it is connected with oxygen. So we usually write it as 2, 4, 6 oxa, trioxa, sorry, 2, 4, 6 trioxa octane. That would be the IUPAC name. This is the IUPAC. You can see this OH3 group which is present. Commonly it is known as anisole. This is common name. And if you have to write the IUPAC name, it is methoxy benzene. Next, you can see common name for this is phenetol, where you have an ethoxy group. IUPAC name is ethoxy benzene. Now the minute we have 1,2 cyclic group, which means we are getting cyclopropyl type of group here, correct? Then we usually use the word epoxy. So we can write this as epoxy epoxy ethane. You can see it is epoxy ethane. We can also call it as oxyrane when you have a 3-membered ring forming with uh, epoxide. It is called oxyrane. The common name for this is ethylene oxide. Okay, so this is the common name. Oxirane is preferred IUPAC name, while this is the standard IUPAC name. Usually we would be using this preferred IUPAC name most of the time. Got it? So if you were asked IUPAC name, both of them are correct. This one is more preferred in general. So you can see next one, if at all you have to write the IUPAC names, we would mostly use oxirane forms. So how do we write this? So we can see we have ethyl group here. So we'll write this as 2-ethyl oxirane. 2-ethyl oxirane is the IUPAC name. Similarly, if you have two groups here, we have ethyl also, we have methyl also. The numbering should always start with oxygen end. So therefore, you will get this as 2-ethyl, 3-methyl oxirane. Next one, you know the sum locant rule. We need to give methyl the more preference because it is coming at the lower numbering. So 2,2-dimethyl, 2,2-dimethyl, 3-ethyl oxirane. Just like how we are writing this as the oxirane, if you have a four-membered ether, cyclic ether which is forming, it is called oxetane. If it is 5-member, it is called oxolane. If it is 6-membered ring, it is oxane. If it is two oxygen groups here, so you can see on 1,4 position we have oxane, so that's why it is called 1,4-dioxane. 1,4-dioxane. If you see the bond angle wise, see this is ether CH3CH3, this is an alcohol CH3H, H and H water, this is phenol. So just to give you an idea about comparison of bond angles, this bond angle is around 118, this is 1085 degrees, water is 104 degrees, and phenol is around 109 degrees. So you can check it out that ethers usually have a longer bond angle, okay, because of steric crowding. So more steric crowding it is seen, more amount of bond angle will be appeared. Okay, the table illustrate different types of compounds, how their formula looks like. Got it? What is the molecular formula, boiling point and dipole moment? Just analyze one thing that you can see water has very high dipole moment, then it is the alcohols which have, then it comes to ethers, okay, and finally then we will have alkanes. Got it? So generally whenever you are comparing a similar molar mass or nearby molar masses, then always water, then ethanol, then alcohols, then ethers, then the respective alkanes. Another important table you got to check out is all the different types of ethers when you have, okay, how to compare their boiling point. You can see it all depends upon how much dipole moment it is creating and what is the molar mass. Got it? So compare the boiling point and melting point of the close by ones, okay, and just check how they are with each other. If you compare the bond angles of different ethers, then how do we need to check? Suppose if you have to, this you have to write down right now. Suppose if you have different bond angle with two methyl groups here, we can have a bond angle alpha, two ethyl groups beta, two isopropyl groups gamma, and two isobutyl groups we can have delta. So for this you can see alpha would be smaller than beta, then gamma, then delta. This you should be able to tell, because as the bulkiness of the alkyl groups increases, the bond angle increases. Okay, next, this type of a zigzag cyclic ethers are called crown ethers. These are called crown ethers. The other day also, one of the classes I told you how to count this. So you can first count the total number of atoms which are closing it. So starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. I think you'll end up to 18 here. Okay. So first we need to show that there is an 18 membered ring. Then we say it is crown, and this crown is forming by how many oxygens? So we can see it is 6. So 18 crown 6, which represents it is an 18 membered ring with 6 oxygen present in it. And usually whenever it is about crown ethers, got it? So the alkyl group should be same throughout. Next, see the preparation of ethers. So for preparation of ethers, the main reaction which we'll be using is Williamson synthesis, and we have been doing this reaction, 2-3 times already. Once in alkyl halide, then in alcohols we came across this. First, we need to generate an alkoxide. Okay, alkoxide can be generated using alcohols. You react alcohols in sodium, we will get alkoxides. Then we treat these alkoxides with RX, and alkoxides are very strong nucleophiles, so they usually go for SN2 reactions. So it would usually go for SN2 reaction. So preferred, solvent is anything which is aprotic. Got it? Now in here, if you check out, because it is an SN2 reaction, this should be SN2 ready. And you remember what is SN2 ready, which means it should be either primary or methyl group. Got it? It may be allyl or benzyl. Got it? But it should not be secondary, it should not be tertiary, and so on. But if when it comes to alkoxide, right, it is a nucleophile. The nucleophile could be any kind, which means it could be methyl also, it could be 1 degree, it could be 2 degree, 3 degree, it could be allyl, it could be benzyl, and it could be vinyl also and phenyl also. Any of this kind will definitely react with R-X, but R-X, the alkyl halide, has to be only SN2 ready. Okay, and what is the condition for X? X should be either chlorine, bromine, or iodine. In that case, there would be an SN2 mechanism favored, where this will attack and X minus will leave, and we will get a product RO R dash. That's how ethers are made, right? Now if this R dash is tertiary, okay, then it would usually give E2 product with tert butoxide. And if you have this as an alkyl halide and you're treating that with tert butoxide also, you will get that as elimination product E2. We will see through that examples. Just make a note of that. The second way of preparing is to treat alkyl halides with either Na2O or Ag2O dry. Ag2O dry. Basically, Na2O or Ag2O dry is something which it will provide O2 minus ions. So if it is O2 minus ions, it will act like a strong nucleophile, attacks on Rx 2 times. So we will get this as ROR. That's how we can get ethers. Next, see how the reaction happens with alcohols. With alcohols, if you take any alcohol, react that with concentrated H2SO4, around 400 kelvins, okay, it would end up as ethers. Similarly, if we use Al2O3 and heat up to 250 degrees centigrade, it will act like it will exist like ethers. If you go around to 350 degrees centigrade, the Al2O3, it will turn into alkenes. We have seen the case that with concentrated H2SO4 also, if you heat at a higher temperature, 423 kelvins, we saw that it will also convert into alkene. So if a question is given where H plus has to be treated with an alcohol which also has a double bond, okay, well, the lone pair from here can attack, correct? Correct. So it would form OH2 plus here, got it? So if OH2 plus on heating, if this is leaving here, so this pi can attack here. So we can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-membered ring here, like this. So if I write this as numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, so this pi can attack here, correct? So it can get that 4-membered ring, and on the 4th carbon we have a group like this, with this getting carbocation here, correct? And H2O is lost from there. Now after this again ring expansion can take place, and we can have a 5-membered ring, correct? We can have a 5-membered ring here with these two groups, positive charge here, and again there could be rearrangement of bimethyl groups, carbocation will come here, and after that, right, we can have this alkene. This is one route. But if you operate at a lower temperature, it may so happen that H plus, which can attack here, some of the amount can also attack here, but that may or may not be major product. But the lone pair, but the oxygen from here can attack here. So if you were asked to find out what is the ether product, then we can see this OH. If H plus gets attacked here, so we can have this as a carbocation formation here with OH, and then lone pair from here attacking to form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-membered ring like this. And if I give the numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on the first carbon you have two methyl groups here. So this could be one of the products as well. So if you were asked about ether products, then you can write this. On heating, if you were given what is the final alkene product, you can write this. We have seen this as other way of preparation for ethers. If you have alcohols, react that with sodium, so we will get alkoxide, and the alkoxide which is forming, which is RO minus, it can attack on CH3 and remove this I. So what do we have here? We can have R, O, R formation. So this is the ether formation. The same thing could happen here. If you have ROH and CH2N2, CH2N2, you know how it would be, CH2 minus and N2 plus. So this CH2 minus is the one which can attack here, correct? On attacking that, we can have RCH2 minus, RO minus, and what do we have there? First it will have CH3, then RO minus will attack on it. So again we will get this. So the side products which we will get here is NaI. Here we will get this as N2. We have seen this reaction also. Alcohol with MeSO4 with OH minus. This OH minus will take away this H plus, and the alkoxide will attack on methyl groups. So that's how we can get this as ROCH3. Okay. So if you have 2 moles, we can have 2 moles of this, and SO4 2 minus will be out. The same logic we can apply even for phenols. So if we take phenols and react with these three, we can get the similar products here. So we can get this as OCH3. Here also we can get the same product. Next, if we prepare from alkenes, what all thing we can see? First, oxymercuration, demercuration. In oxymercuration, just me remind again, first a mercury bridge is formed here, correct? So if you recall, first Hg, this kind of a bridge is formed here, OAC, right? Then MEOH will attack here, this bond will break, and NaBH4 finally gives H plus here. So I'm not writing all the mechanism, but I guess you can recall what would happen there. So finally the product we will get is something like this. Here there would be hydride which has been added, okay, and that hydride is coming from here. This is that hydride, and OMe is been added on this position. So that's how the ether is forming here. In the case of hydrolysis, okay, with methanol, which means this is methanolysis where we have H plus been added and then MEOH been added here. So first thing we can have is a carbocation formation. Then in case if it is getting more stabilized, it will rearranged, or else this lone pair will attack and we will get this as OMe. That will be the final product. So instead of water we are adding ethanol, alcohols. MCPBA, we have seen this already. In MCPBA the peroxy acid would get added, so all we get is an epoxide. Ag in the presence of O2 will also become Ag2O, right, and that would also give you a similar epoxide formation here. Okay, both would be added as a syn addition here. Next, in case of halohydrins, what you will see here, this O minus will attack here and Cl will leave. So intramolecular substitution is happening here, by which also we can get. See the mechanism. Suppose if I take this as halohydrin, halohydrin means when we have OH, which is a hydroxy group, and this is halo group. If both of them are there, you will call it as halohydrin. In presence of base, like if I take OH minus, it will extract the proton from here and it will become an alkoxide on this side, and an anti substitution will take place here where O minus will attack from the opposite end, Cl will leave, and that's how we can get epoxides. If the same halohydrin is in cyclic case, first let me finish this, then you can write. If the same thing is in uh, cyclic case, right, especially in cyclohexane, if both of them are anti to each other, which means they are axial to each other, then this O minus can attack easily. Alright, so what you can see that first OH minus will take away this H plus, and the O minus can attack here, Cl minus can leave from that. Okay, so what do we get here? We will get again an epoxide formation. But if they are not axial to each other, then this O minus cannot attack on this side. Got it? So in that case, what you will see, OH minus will directly attack here and Cl minus will relieve. Got that? So we will simply get this as OH here and this OH will remain. So what do we get is a trans diols. Same halohydrin, if it is in a straight chain with a a long chain here, so we can see the same thing here. OH minus will take away this H plus and this O minus will attack here, Br minus will leave. Okay, we'll get oxane. Halohydrin in the case of Fischer projection is given. Okay, Br is here, OH is here. First this O minus will attack on this case, Br will remove. But for that they need to be anti-aligned with each other, right? So we can show through Sauer's projections or Newman projections. So I'm using the Sauer's projections here. So first you can see, it is just a revision guys. Those who are still struggling with understanding how to write that, please check out. So I'm taking this as a front carbon, right, and this is the back carbon on which there is a methyl bromine group. So I can see on the back carbon we have bromine, hydrogen and methyl, and on the front carbon we have methyl, OH and hydrogen. This is how they are aligned. Okay, see, every time you have to remember a Fischer projection is the eclipsed form of conformers. So we got this eclipsed form here. Now what I can do, just to make sure that this bromine and OH are opposite to each other, I am pushing this bromine to this side, which means I am rotating such a way that bromine is coming I am rotating by 60 degrees there. So that would be there, methyl would be here, right? And I am rotating here by 120 degrees, so OH can be down here. Got it? So if OH is there, H would be here, methyl would be here. Got it? Now you can observe this OH and Br are opposite to each other, correct? And first OH minus will take away this H plus, creates an alkoxide ion, so we'll get O minus, H, Me, Br, H and Me. So this O minus is the one which will attack from the opposite side so that Br can relieve, and we will get this epoxide formation. So as in the epoxide, you can see methyl would be here, H would be here. This is on the back carbon. On the front carbon we have H, methyl group. Okay. So if you write the same thing here, eventually in this form we can see MEH, and here we have MEH opposite to each other. Okay. Those who know this, you can just skip the steps and just directly write what is the product coming. Those who are still struggling, please make a note of this and see how it is working. Right. Next two are the same case. I wrote. I didn't see that. I repeated that, so you guys can see that. One is oxetine. You can get oxetane and oxane. Right. Now, see the properties here. See, first of all, whenever we consider about ethers, we know that because of the lone pairs, they would have sufficient dipole moment. So, because they would have dipole moment, that helps in solubility. Got it? But still, their dipole moment is not as good as that of ethanol. We have seen from the data. So that's why if you check out the boiling point, they will have low boiling point as compared to a comparable molar mass of alcohols. Okay, so it is polar but with low boiling point. Okay, now it is used as a solvent. Got it? Because it is sufficiently volatile and unreactive. So it can dissolve the substances, got it, which are polar, but it would be unreactive. Okay. And you would see lower ethers are usually soluble in water, especially methoxy ether, to dimethyl, methyl ether or methyl ethyl ether. So they are more soluble in, relatively better soluble in water as compared to that of higher ethers. Which means as the size of the R increases, their solubility decreases, which is a similar case what we have seen even in alcohols. Got it? So one important point what we can note from here is that it is very important that it is showing inertness for any other nucleophilic reagents. Okay, so which means if you add Cn minus, OH minus, got it, SH minus, RO minus, got it, it would usually be inert to that. Got it? So these nucleophiles do not react with the ethers. That's what it meant. Ethers would mostly have their cleavage on either side. If you ROR, okay. So what we are expecting is that there could be either cleavage on this side or cleavage on this side. Got it? But if you treat that with simple, neutral solution like water, got it, then there won't be any reaction. Not that water will attack here, something RO minus will be removed like that. So that won't happen. Same thing in the presence of OH minus, which means pH greater than 7 also you won't see any reaction happening. But only if it is pH less than 7, which means it is acidic solution, what we can expect is that we can get ROR with H plus. So it will form an oxonium ion here, and in which one of the side could be good leaving group here. So this would become good leaving group. Because of that good leaving group nature, that can be done either by SN1 mechanism or by SN2 mechanism. So if it is SN1, we can get this as R plus ROH, correct? If it is SN2, any incoming nucleophile can attack at the same time. So we can get this as RNU plus ROH. So these are the two things that we can observe in case if pH is less than 7. So which is clear cut indication that ethers will only react in acidic solutions, not in water, not in basic medium. Now, since we have learned that it is inert in alkaline medium because OH minus will not attack here, let me just write the reason for it. One, it is a strong carbon oxygen bond, got it, sigma bond, which does not get easily broken. Second, OR minus which is coming is a poor leaving group, So that's why any incoming nucleophile cannot simply attack on the carbon and relieve that RO minus group. Now, so we are clear that hydrolysis or any kind of a reaction that has to be happening for ethers, it has to be in acidic condition only. So what are the different acidic conditions are something which we are learning right now. So first acidic condition is cold concentrated H2SO4, not dilute, remember, cold and concentrated H2SO4. In cold concentrated H2SO4, right, so all we can see that it will form an oxonium ion like this with HSO4 minus. So it will just end up here like a salt. No reaction further. If you treat that with any Lewis acid like BF3, B2H6 like this, got it? Then the lone pair on oxygen will attack on boron. It would form something like a salt here. If you treat that with B2H6, it would form this R2O BH3, got it? And BH3 here. So with this gets minus, so minus. But when you treat that with BCl3, correct? Now because between boron and chlorine the bond is weaker, so Cl minus will come out and again attacks back, so that it will end up in alkyl halides. So with BCl3, similarly with PCl5 and PCl3 here, PCl3, correct, and PCl5, we will see this reaction to end up with alkyl halides. So far I have used simply cold concentrated H2SO4 or Lewis acids. Okay. Now what we will be using, third one, is acid catalyzed hydrolysis by dilute H2SO4, any dilute H plus, if it can be written as H3O plus or H plus H2SO4, all of them meant the same thing. Okay. So here we are using acid catalyzed hydrolysis using dilute acidic conditions. Now see, this is an area which is very important for us. Problems in JEE are very frequently from this area. Okay. So how acid catalyzed hydrolysis work on ethers? Let's focus on that. First, oxygen will attack H plus, forms an oxonium ion. Now after this, it depends upon how these two groups are, how these two R groups are, correct? If this R group is any of that, either of this, okay, I am not talking only one of that, either of that, if it is 2 degrees, 3 degrees, okay, either allyl, benzyl, correct, or it is forming an OCC, which means octet completed carbocation, or it is forming any aromatic stability. In all of these cases, SN1 type is most favored. So mechanism will drive through SN1 route. But if the R is CH3 on both sides or primary on both sides, got it? Here either side, remember that. Then it will drive through SN2 route. Very important to remember. Okay, I'm only talking about major product. There may be cases you might argue with me, sir, there is a benzyl group, it will go best for SN1 also and SN2 also. If the comparison comes where SN1 is also favoring and SN2 is also favoring, major product will always be from SN1. Okay, so the overall product which you will see, major would be from SN1 because rate of SN1 is much faster than rate of SN2. Back of the mind, this should come to your, always. So make a note of that. Now we'll see all the cases one by one. This section is very important. I suggest all of you write that. Anything which has missed before this page, it's okay, you can rewrite that, but from here just be focused on it. Every question, how to solve it, these all have been coming in JEE very frequently. So focus on that. All of you have written this? Right. Now let's see this. If it is SN1 route, how the mechanism happens. If it is SN2 route, how the mechanism will take place. First, an oxonium ion is forming in either of the cases, right? Because first H plus has been taken. Now, if let's say R1 is becoming stabilized as a carbocation, so it would become a carbocation and you would have R2OH forming. And this again undergo hydrolysis because you are taking dilute solution. So we have sufficient water in it, so hydration will happen and R1OH will form here. If it is SN2 route, water would directly attack here. This group will rearrange to form R2OH plus R1OH. That's how the SN2 mechanism works. Okay. See these examples. I will show that once again. Focus on the examples first. Let me show you one or two. After that, you have to do all of the cases. So CH3O CH3. Check out what are the cases. Both side primary. Remember, both side primary or methyl. What is the case then? First, we will have to make an oxonium ion, right? Then H2O would attack on methyl groups simultaneously as the CH3OH is removed. So by SN2 mechanism, so all I am getting is 2 moles of CH3OH. See the second case. One side there is a primary or a methyl group. Okay. On the other side there is a tertiary. Whether it is tertiary or secondary, in either of the cases what we will do, the major product will always be from SN1 side. So first an oxonium ion is being made. Now consider this oxygen is isotopic. Now check out carefully where is it moving. So it would go by SN1 mechanism. So which means this bond will break towards oxygen so that it can create a more stable carbocation. So CH3OH is formed and then a tertiary carbocation is formed here. So CH3 with positive charge. On this tertiary carbocation, hydrolysis is done. Okay. And as the hydrolysis is done, because it is already at a stable position, so no rearrangement. So we can get this as CH3COOH. One thing you need to notice is that the isotopic oxygen is here. Okay. So on hydrolysis, at either of the side, if you have any stabilizing factor, got it, secondary or tertiary, we will always go for SN1 reaction. Got it? Those who got the third one, you can move on to fourth. Those who got the fourth, they can move on to fifth. Meanwhile, I am writing the third one. Those who didn't get, you can check it out. First, I'll write the position. One side there is primary, the other side there is tertiary. Instantly, it should come to your mind that there is a secondary, so it has to go for SN1. So, first protonation will take place. So we'll get CH3 CH2 OH. This oxonium ion is formed, CH CH3 and CH3, and this group will move here, so we'll get CH3 CH2 OH plus CH carbocation, which is methyl and methyl. This on hydrolysis we'll get CHOH, and the isotopic oxygen ended up with this. Next case, after oxonium ion, see both sides it is primary, so H2O will attack on the least substituted carbon, and you know the rules of SN2, right? So thereby we will have CH3 CH2 OH plus CH3 OH, and isotopic oxygen went with. Check the fifth one. Fifth one, you need to be very careful. Left hand side there is 1 degree, right hand side also there is 1 degree. So although right hand side appears like it can form more stable carbocation after rearrangement, it is not something we have to see after rearrangement. We need to see at the time of oxonium ion how the group is. So because it is 1 degree on both the sides, the attack will happen simultaneously. So water will attack here, this group will leave, and the mechanism is driven by SN2. So hence what are the products? We can get this as CH3 CH2OH plus CH3 CH3 CH CH2OH, and you could see now the isotopic oxygen has went with this bulky group. Next one it is connected with phenyl group here, right? See, when the connection is with phenyl group, you know that this oxygen which is connected with phenyl group, right, this oxygen which is connected with this phenyl group, okay, this would make this will give a partial double bond character on it. So obviously breaking this bond becomes very difficult. So you will just check out on the one side what is the group here. Since it is 1 degree, so attack has to be by SN2. So water will attack here and this group will leave. Okay, obviously it is after formation of oxonium ion. So let me show first oxonium ion, CH3 CH2 OH with pH, H2O is attacking here, this bond will break, you will get this as CH3 CH2 OH plus pH OH. So you can see the oxonium, the isotopic oxygen is with phenolic group now. So left side 1 degree, right side allyl. So definitely it will go for SN1. That should come to your mind, everyone. CH3 CH2 O CH2 CH double bond CH2, and this is the oxonium ion, and since it can form allyl, so it will go by SN1 route. So I will get this as CH3 CH2 OH plus CH2 double bond CH CH2 plus, and on this hydrolysis will happen, so that we'll get CH2 double bond CH CH2OH. So allyl alcohol, CH3 CH2OH plus pH CH2OH. Okay, isotopic oxygen is here. Next, ninth one, both sides it is 1 degree. You can see 1 degree here, 1 degree here, got it? So it has to go by SN2 mechanism only, so which means water will attack from here. So what do we get here? I'm directly writing the products now. I'm not writing oxonium ion anymore. So CH2OH plus tert butyl. So this is amyl alcohol. So where is the isotopic oxygen? It is here. Now observe all these cases, 10 to 14 cases, from 10th towards 14 cases, everyone. The lone pair present on this oxygen is in conjugation with either side of the carbon chains. Got it? Right. Although in this case it is on this side, but here because of its cyclic nature, it can't go for SN2, neither it is a stable carbocation. Same way, this side, although there is a primary carbon here, it is very bulky, so it cannot give SN2. So, and SN1 is not favored. Got it? And same thing here, if you check out both sides, one side there is an SN2 is not favored in, we know that in bicyclo groups here on bridgehead carbons, as well as on the phenyl group, we cannot have SN2. Neither SN1 can favor on both the sides. The same logic can be applied on 14th also. So what does that mean? In all of these cases, you do not see this hydrolysis happening. Now if you observe, we didn't use any vinyl groups here so far. So I hope all of you done with that 10 to 16. Now let us come to this case, 17th one, where I have a vinyl group on one side. Okay, so you can see there is 1 degree on one side and vinyl on the other side. Okay, and the other day also I told you that in case if there is an H plus approaching and you have to do protonation, suppose if there is a pi bond available in the chain, but that pi bond is in lone pair, pi bond and lone pair are in conjugation, then definitely the attack will be from the pi bond. Remember that? So which means if you have something like this, okay, it could be any group on this side and H plus is approaching, H plus is approaching. So the lone pair is in conjugation, lone pair is in conjugation with this pi bond. So this pi bond is the one which will attack the H plus first. If the lone pair is not in conjugation, then oxygen will be the one which will attack the H plus first, right? So if pi and lone pair are not in conjugation, then the lone pair will do the protonation. If pi and lone pair are in conjugation, then pi bond will do the protonation. Remember that. So see the mechanism now. So H plus is approaching. So definitely there is a conjugation here. So this C minus would attack on this H plus. So I would get this as CH3. Here we can see a carbocation is forming, which means a double bond character is coming here. So OCC case is the one which we are saying, that is octet completed carbocation. So we will first get an octet completed carbocation. So on this octet completed carbocation, which is CH3, CH double bond O, CH2, CH3 is attached, and H2O as a lone pair. Now it has to attack, so obviously it will attack on this carbon, this bond, the pi bond will be taken away by oxygen. So we would get this as CH3, CH, OH, sorry, single bond, O, CH2 and CH3, this plus. So the lone pair on oxygen here will take away this H plus, and I would get this as CH3, CH, OH, OH, CH2, CH3 with plus charge here. Got it? And now because that becomes a good leaving group, the lone pair on oxygen pushes as a pi bond here and this group will leave. So what do we get here now? We will get this as CH3, CH2, OH plus CH3, CH double bond, OH plus. It is in acidic medium, deprotonation will take place and we will get CH3, CH double bond O. So basically we are ending up that with an aldehyde form and an alcohol form. So in the vinyl cases you need to be very careful how the mechanism is taking place. And the driving force here is the bond formation of C double bond O. So that's why this lone pair is pushing so that this can form C double bond O, which is more stable. Bond dissociation energy of C double bond O is high. So it will push so that it can form an aldehyde or a keto form. Everybody got this? So if I write the final products here, one we got is CH3C double bond OH plus CH3 CH2OH, and if you check carefully, the isotopic oxygen ended up with that alcohol, because the water which has attacked here, observe carefully, the water which has attacked here has eventually become a double bond. So that will be in the that would be present with the aldehyde form, and the isotopic form will be leaving out with alcohols. How do we work out these type of questions, especially when you have vinyl case? The minute you find vinyl case, right? So use this shortcut. Got it? From the water, just break this way. So the OH from the water has to go to the vinylic form, and the H has to go to that alcohol form. Okay? Everywhere you see the vinylic carbon, you know, make a bond break like this. So you can write this as an enol form, which will tautomerize to give the final product as aldehyde. Okay, and this part will be left out as alcohol. So make that as a shortcut, and we'll do some problems on that. See, the question is given, we have to do the ether hydrolysis, but left side there is a vinyl group. So immediately that will come to my mind, key I have to break it here and make sure I have to give OH here and H on this side. So that way I will end up with giving this with OH, and this side, which is CH3 CH2, I will give that as OH, and this will undergo tautomerism. See, we get tempted to make sure this is a stable allylic form, so why don't I just make it a carbocation first, correct? But whenever there is a vinylic group present, like I told you, the H plus attack will be always from the pi bond side. So H plus is not actually getting here to remove this as a carbocation. So that's why I always adopt only this fundamental. Wherever you see vinyl, just break this, give OH on the left hand side, H on this side, and accordingly make the final product. So final product here would be, first you can see CH2 double bond CH with OH plus CH2 double bond CH CH2OH, and this will undergo tautomerism to give CH3 CHO. You will get this as the keto form, cyclic keto form, and this side we should get it as an alcohol phenol form. So like I said guys, ether is a very simple chapter. Here there are only two major reactions. One is the hydrolysis reaction, the other one is reaction with HI, both on open chain ethers or epoxides. Got it? So what we are learning right now is a unsymmetrical ethers where hydrolysis is done. Next reaction is with concentrated HI. Now these ethers can exist in the form of acetals or hemiacetals. Got it? Now how exactly these acetals are prepared, hemiacetals are prepared? Got it? And if we hydrolyze that, how we'll get back to the formation of aldehydes or ketones is our next discussion.